Okay, so today is gonna be like a full behind the scenes of everything that has gone wrong over the past week with our Bundt Cake Recipe Book. So even here, when I started this video, I didn't have my microphone plugged in on my camera. And so what I was trying to say was, hey, can we take 6 Milky Ways and a cake mix and make a bundt cake that tastes really good? And I was so optimistic at the time. And then I went on to say how we are creating this bundt cake recipe book for Dorothy's house in Mexico. And so I have been trying out some new bundt cake recipes so that we can add new recipes to it. One is this Milky Way one where you literally take 6 Milky Way candy bars. And then another is a tres leches one because we wanted to do something that was a little bit Mexican inspired for Dorothy as well. And so it started out well. I have made, probably almost 100 bundt cakes now over the last 7 years, and so I'm very confident in my bundt cake making skills, but it kind of felt like anything that could go wrong with these cakes started to go wrong. So how I even got started making bundt cakes was that I went to a bridal shower, and at it they had an actual bundt cake from the bakery Nothing Bundt Cakes. And so if you live in the area of any of these bakeries, the bundt cakes are phenomenal. They're also a little spendy. They're over $20 a piece, which for a special occasion is worth it. But I immediately went home and was like, I want to find a copycat recipe so I can make this for birthdays and other occasions that we have, because it was so good. It was literally the best piece of cake that I had ever had. You ate it and you were just like content. It was so good. And so I found a copycat recipe online, and I've since kind of made adjustments to it until what the recipe is today. That's how I got started. But then I realized that it's actually like very minimalist to just have one dessert that is your go-to, that you bring everywhere and that everyone loves. And what I like about it is how when you, like anything you make in a bundt cake pan, you flip it out onto a cake plate or a cake stand and it automatically looks fancy. Just how it's like taller and the shape of it, it just looks like a fancy cake every time you flip it out. And it's like no one knows that it's just like a box cake mix and a cup of sour cream and a pudding mix, you know? But it just looks like you spent a lot of time on it and are very good at baking or whatever, right? And so I don't know, it's just been fun to experiment with different things. And then always to just know that I can bring like a really awesome dessert wherever I go. So that's been kind of fun, and that's kind of where all of this came from. Okay, so here I had chopped up the candy bars and the butter, and then we microwaved it for a minute, and then we stirred it and microwaved it for another 30 seconds. Okay, this is where I don't know if we should go. The butter's really melted, but the chocolate's not quite. And that worked out really well. That created a nice consistency. So that part was good, and I would recommend that. And so the recipe, I said you melt the candy bars and the butter together, and then in your mixer, you just make up a yellow cake mix the standard way. So I had that ready to go in the mixer, and then we dumped in the Milky Way mixture and mixed that together. And then I greased my bundt cake pan with cooking spray like I always do, and I put it in the oven. Now, the only thing that it didn't say in the recipe was how long to bake it for. And so I figured this is probably similar to my other bundt cakes, but I'd err a little bit on the lower side so you can always bake it longer. And so I set it for like 47 minutes like I normally do. Okay, so while the bundt cake bakes, we're gonna make some chicken fried rice for lunch. We had roasted a chicken last night, and then I just picked off all the extra pieces, and we have tons of eggs to use up, so it's a kill 2 birds with 1 stone kind of meal, and it's super easy. So okay, the timer went off. I was trying to look at it. I can't tell if it's actually done. I don't like to open the oven door until like I'm pretty sure they're done, but I think we're just gonna have to take it out and see. Don't look at my pot holders either. They're very dirty. I'm sure there's ways to get them cleaner. Oh, it's pretty brown on top. All right. So then I pulled the bundt cake out. It looked really well done, but I wasn't worried about it at this point. And then you let them sit for 20 minutes, and then you flip it out onto your cake stand. When I went to flip it, and you know like right away when you flip it if it's gonna release or not, and I could just tell it was like so stuck in there. And so then I have had this happen before. And usually you can take like a spatula and then just gently loosen the edges and it'll come out. Sometimes if you let the cakes cool too long and if they have chocolate chips in it, the chocolate chips, like anything sugary will stick to a pan if it cools for too long. But this was a complete disaster. Like when I flipped it out, yeah, I mean, a quarter of the cake was still stuck to the pan. Okay, so the only good thing about this happening is that we could taste test it, not having to wait to like frost it and all that. So the cake has, I think I just baked it too long. It has a very good consistency to it. I was a little worried because it was so runny. It doesn't, like, it's a very good tasting cake. If you're expecting it to taste like Milky Way though, we've all kind of agreed. Do you think it tastes like Milky Way, Adeline?
Just a tad.
Just a tad. You don't necessarily get, but it has like a nice rich like caramely flavor to it. So it's a very good tasting cake. I just don't know, should we have added one more in or not? But I also know if we add more candy and that could change like the texture and everything else of the cake. So I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna think about it, what we should do to try this again. I like making fried rice because it's so easy. So one thing we do when we cook the rice, we replace the water with chicken broth. So you can do this anytime if you just want to add a little flavor to your rice, is just to replace the water with chicken broth. But for this especially, it helps to give it a little bit more flavor. I forgot to add this right away, but usually we saute the veggies in a little bit of sesame oil, and then you just add some soy sauce to the rice once you dump everything in, and it's pretty easy. And the chicken I didn't have a ton of chicken, so I'm like, well, we'll just add in a little more eggs so it's more filling. So I did like 6 or 7 eggs, but some of our eggs are kind of little because those chickens have just started laying eggs, so they're like these cute little eggs. So I put more in, but just scramble those up and fry them and then dump it in. And then you could add in peas, but 5 out of 6 people in our household don't like peas, so we just leave them out. But I like the color that it adds to it, so ours looks a little more boring, I guess. But it's sometimes something easy that I'll make on the weekends. Luckily though, my chicken fried rice did turn out well, so that is a nice easy recipe. So then we wanted to start the tres leches cake. Now I could not find any recipes where you used a boxed cake mix for the tres leches, which would have been my preference. Everyone said you need to create a sponge cake, and that's what soaks in the tres leches, the 3 milk mixture. And so they even said like you can't use boxed cake mixes because you need that sponge consistency. So I was like, okay, so this was like a legit cake recipe where you separate the eggs and with the egg whites, and you beat them and all that, and then you make the yolks with the sugar, and then you whip that, and you're supposed to do it till it doubles in size. And so like the first set of mixing was like 6 or 7 minutes, and then it even said like for the egg yolks, like beat it for 6 to 7 minutes. So I'm like, this is just really intense compared to my normal Bundt cake recipes, but I'm like, we're doing it for Dorothy, so it's totally fine. We are gonna make this work. So I just kept going with the instructions. I put all the dry ingredients together, mix them in a separate bowl, and then folded in the egg whites and all that. So I tried to follow the recipe very carefully because I wanted to know if this would be a recipe I can recommend and put in the recipe book, right? And so that's what we did. And by the time I got it into the Bundt cake pan, it seemed like everything was going well with it. So that was at least good. All right, now we're gonna make the actual tres leches part that you pour over it and soaks into the cake. So you just need a 12-ounce can of evaporated milk, 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk. Did we mention that these are not like health recipes? A half cup of heavy whipping cream, and then a half teaspoon of cinnamon. So we're gonna add that to the mixer. You're supposed to have all of the ingredients room temperature. This is the other thing I like for everything we've been doing with this cake. It should all be room temperature. This is the other thing I like about our Bundt cakes, is that it does not matter if everything's cold or whatever. The cake still turns out perfectly, so you don't have to worry about that. I really appreciate that. So when I pulled the tres leches cake out of the oven, everything looked good. It was beautiful. And you're supposed to poke holes in it with a skewer. I did not have one of those, so I used a metal straw. I don't know, it worked fine. And then you pour the mixture over it, and you're supposed to reserve a quarter of it, and then you're gonna, once we dump it out of the pan, and then you're gonna pour the rest of it out of it. And so we poured it on, and then you're supposed to let it sit. So then while it was sitting, I decided like, okay, the kitchen is starting to turn into a disaster. So why don't we take a little time to clean up the kitchen while that soaks, and then we would flip it out onto the cake stand. And I do want to mention too, though, something that has gone right this week. I'm normally a very half full glass person, so there's a lot that's gone right, despite the cake failures that you'll see more of coming up. But our devotional, Decluttering by Faith, is for pre-order now, for sale now for pre-order. If you order now, they will start shipping the first week in December, so should arrive in plenty of time for Christmas. But it's 187 full color pages, 60 devotionals, and then at the end of each week, it's a 12-week series, but then at the end, there's also decluttering goals as well and instruction about that. But our hope is we've really set it up so that it would be a really great group study too. So if you would want to host a group at your house or at your church, the price goes down based on how many copies you order. So it starts at $16 right now is our pre-order special, but then it can go all the way down to $12 a book based on how many you buy. Flat rate shipping. So we're trying to make it really affordable if you do want to host a group study. Plus, anyone who orders the book, you get access to a 6-week video series that Diana and I did too, that walks you through the key lessons in here. So you can do it by yourself or again with your group. It's meant to go along with that. And then we're also going to have a private Facebook group for anyone who does want to host a group where we can just brainstorm ideas and talk about the best way to do that and encourage each other in that as well. So if you do order the book, you'll get details about all of that. So I'll put all the details, of course, in the description, but do know that this is officially available. And thank you so much in advance for all of your support. We're just always blown away and so grateful. So thank you. So I was actually really surprised when we flipped it out and I could tell that part of this cake had stuck as well. I was just like, what is going on here? I've never had a problem with my cakes sticking before, and I always just use cooking spray the pan really well, dump them in, dump them out. And so this was where I learned that there's actually a very key difference in cooking spray versus baking spray. And so a baking spray has powder in it and it's meant for baking. Like I said, all of our other recipes, they work fine with cooking spray, but I had noticed that there was like a buildup of that like gross greasy stuff around the edge of my bundt cake pan. And so what I learned is that is from using cooking spray. And if you really want to make sure your cakes don't stick and your pan doesn't get gross, then you should use baking spray. So now I have learned that lesson. Okay, so my next challenge now is I want to get this onto this beautiful cake stand. Isn't that so pretty? It just felt like it would just be fitting for this cake. So I have to figure out how to get it on here without it breaking. Usually when you try to move a bundt cake, it can tend to split and break, so wish me luck. And then I had put this cake on that blue cake plate because it has like a lip around it, and we still needed to dump the rest of the milk mixture onto it, but it wasn't the final cake stand that I wanted it on. So then Adeline, and I was like, this cake is not gonna move. It was so floppy now from all the liquid in it, and so luckily Adeline was able to help me with that. All right, we have it on. Nothing to see here. Yeah, we'll get it all cleaned up. Thank you, Adeline. Okay, so I whipped the icing too long and the heavy cream started turning into whipped cream, so I added a little more cream, and I realized I hadn't put the vanilla in, so I added that in. So now it's a little more like floppy. Oh no, I just got out of it. Okay, so I'm gonna see if we can make this look nice. I mean, the only good thing about having a little more structure to it is it'll fill in these spots where it's stuck. So I don't know, we're just making this up as we go. All right, so I have tasted little pieces of it and it's phenomenal, but we're gonna test it all together with the whipped topping and everything. All right, you ready to give it a shot, Adeline? Yep. Oh my goodness. Yep, that's awesome. I wanna get a part that doesn't have quite so much of the liquidy stuff in it. What do you think? I don't know. Okay, so that's where then we had left things for the day. What Adeline actually said afterwards, she was like, the cake had too much liquid in it. So I have seen other recipes where they didn't use the full amount of the mixture. And so my recommendation is to use less. And so at this point I knew we have to remake the Milky Way cake. I have to figure out the right baking time and how to make it not stick to the pan. And then I also really wanted to find a simpler version of the tres leches because that was just too involved and it just made too many dirty dishes to be in my easy, awesome bundt cake recipe book, right? So I got new ingredients, we went to the store, and then I also got to thinking maybe my bundt cake pan, part of the reason that it's sticking is because it's old. We've abused this. Like we'll let it soak in water overnight, like all the things you're not supposed to do with your bakeware. And so I thought maybe it's time to get a new bundt cake pan. Maybe that's just what my sticking problem is now. So I was at Target getting more ingredients and I saw this beautiful, it's actually a Nordic ware bundt cake pan. They invented the bundt cake pan back in the 50s here in Minnesota. It was on sale even, and so I'm like, I'm just gonna grab it and we're gonna try it out. So I came back home and we started making more cakes. Here's what was so frustrating. Like I said, I have 3 failed cakes on my counter right now. So here was the first one. It looked like it had risen and then it just sank and got so short. And I noticed that, people keep throwing away my cake box. Seriously, I pulled it out of the garbage like 3 times. The cake mix was almost expired. It was within 3 days of expiring, even though I had just bought it at the store. So I thought, okay, maybe it's not the pan, maybe the cake mix didn't rise because of that. And so then I made another one, and that's this one. And I was like, what on earth is going wrong? I've never had this problem before. So I've since come to realize that this is a 12-cup pan, and this is more like a 10. It does not say it in the description. This is from Amazon. It doesn't say it in the description, but like in the frequently asked questions, it did say that someone measured it and it's like a 10-cup pan. And so I have a third cake in here now cooling for the tres leches. I am gonna figure out how to make it from a box cake mix by using my yellow cake mix recipe, which at least I can make it in my sleep now, and then adding some cinnamon to it. So I think we're on the right track with that, and I think I'm gonna have a successful recipe, even though it took 3 times. And then we made the Milky Way one again, and it stuck again, even though I was using baking spray. So I do think for that one, I'm gonna have to recommend to put a little flour or cocoa powder in the pan as well. There's just so much sugar in it, which tastes great because it caramelizes and creates this like little crust that is so good. But everyone has been eating this one now. This might be our new favorite bundt cake recipe with the Milky Way candy bars. It's expensive to make, don't get me wrong, to buy 6 candy bars to put in there, but it is so good. The texture is so good. We didn't even put any kind of frosting or icing on it, and it is awesome. Like you could eat it like that. But I'm gonna make it another time. I'm gonna figure out how to make it not stick to the pan. And then I think I'm gonna just do a really light icing on it and then melt another Milky Way and pour that over the top. And I think it's gonna be incredible. So I was hoping that by this point I would be able to show you a successful Milky Way cake and tres leches, but we're just not there yet. So that is my goal for the weekend because our bundt cake recipe book is coming out next Tuesday, November 15th. That is National Bundt Cake Day. But I do have to tell you this too. So in the process, while I've been trying to figure this out, Dorothy actually sent photos of the gals down there in Mexico that are part of her ministry making a bundt cake, and then she also sent a video talking about what a well would mean to them down there. And it's just so incredible. Like we just walk over to the tap right now and get a drink of water. We just go to the bathroom and take a shower. We load the dishwasher and we run it. And so I'm gonna share all of that next week. I'm gonna get it all put together. And so I just felt like any headaches I'm having with cake sticking to a bundt cake pan is like nothing, right? Like who cares? So it doesn't matter. But more importantly, I want to make sure any recipe that is in that recipe book is going to be fail-proof for you too, because there's nothing worse than being like, that's $10 of ingredients in that cake and it didn't work out, right? And so I really want to make sure that all of these recipes are like fail-proof and are going to be really good if I'm going to recommend it to you. But I am then excited to get the recipe book on sale and see if we can raise $37,000 for Dorothy's house. So again, all of those details will come out Tuesday. I know some have already been like, where can I buy it? Where can I donate? All that. If you want to donate extra, you'll be able to do that as well. So that will come out on Tuesday. It will be up for quite a while, so you won't have to worry about missing out on that. But if you do want to check out our devotional. And lastly, it was kind of fun last night. Tom and I got to go to the Ramsey like wealth building event where they just talk about getting out of debt and all that. Oh, I probably shouldn't even talk about that right now because, ooh. But what I really wanted to say is we got to see so many friends there last night. And so it was so fun to see you. And I'm so glad you came up and said hi. Seriously, if you see us out in public, like, please come say hi. We really enjoy getting to see you and to get to visit and all of that. So it was just super fun to get to see friends there as well. And so we were really glad for that. But yeah, like I've said before, next to minimalism, getting out of debt has radically changed our life. So we really want that for you too. But that is all I will say about that for now. It's hard to talk about that when we're heading into the holidays, so we don't have to focus on that right now. We can reset in January. But speaking of which, in our 5 days to an organized Christmas, tomorrow morning we actually have a Facebook Live where we're gonna address Christmas cards and holiday cards together. So it's not too late to join in for that either. So I can put those details down below. So wow, have I loaded you up with enough things now? But I love getting to spend time with you. I love for us to get to do these things together, and it's so fun. So I've really enjoyed these extra opportunities to get to interact and spend time with you. So like I said, anything I've mentioned should be in the description of this video. So, all right, well, I have some more cakes to make, so I'm gonna get busy, but I just love you so much. I'm so grateful for your support and how you cheer us on and encourage us. So thank you for that. I love you. I hope you have a really good weekend, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon.